In Year 9, just me again, going to talk through the page on squares, cubes and roots, or pages I should say, there's two of them. Okay, so first of all, what a square number is. So a square number I quite often hear is a number times by itself. Now, you could times any number by itself, so that would make any number a square number, which isn't true. A better definition of a square number is what you get when you times a whole number by itself. So this diagram sums it up quite nicely. The important thing is it's what you get, it's the answer you get when you times a number by itself. And the reason they're called square numbers is because they make squares when you arrange them. We can't make a non-square number into a square. So the first square number is what you get when you do 1 times 1. And that would just give you 1. Okay. The second number is what you get when you times 2 by itself. 2 times 2 would give us 4. Okay, and we can arrange it into a square like that. The third square number, 3 times 3, gives us 9, and so on. 4 times 4 gives us 16, 5 times 5 gives us 25, 6 times 6 gives us 36. And we can write square numbers, we can square a number using this small notation, this small 2 at the top, next to a number. Okay, so those are called powers or indices. We should know our square numbers up to 15 squared, really. Okay, so all of the first 15 square numbers should be committed to memory, because just having them on the tips of your tongue could be quite useful in an exam. Being able to do these last 5, quite handy. But you can figure them out even if you don't remember them. So for example, 20 squared, if you just times the 2 by the 2, that would give us 4, and then you put the 2 zeros on the end, 400. There are ways of working out those last few. A cube number is, again, not a number times by itself 3 times, because you could do that with any number, but it's what you get when you times a number by itself, and then again by itself. So the first cube number is again 1, because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. The second cube number is 8, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, not 6. Lots of people attempt to say 6, but that's because they're adding them up. If you think about it, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 again is 8. 27 is the third cube number. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, and 64 is the next one. Really, these get quite big quite quickly, so we only really need to know up to 5 cubed. And 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And we can use a similar notation to squared, but this time with a power of 3. So you only really need to know the first 5, possibly then the 10th cube number, because that's quite easy to work out. So 10 times 10 times 10 is 1000. Okay, but you can pause the video and digest those provided by Corbett Maths if you like. Okay, we're going to switch over to page 15 in our packs. Now, one of the other things I should probably mention before we get started is that when you're doing this sort of question, you might be asked to work out, solve, evaluate, or find the value of, and they all mean the same thing. They mean what is the actual numerical answer. If it just says simplify, that's different. This first question, again, it just says write out each of the following as multiplications and gives you an example. It just means write it as expanded form again. In other words, don't use this little superscript notation. Write it out actually what it means. So 3 squared means 3 times 3. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of those. I'll fill in the rest and you can copy down the answers in a moment. Okay, where it says work out though, that actually means what is the answer. So 5 squared means 5 times 5, but the answer to that is 25. 3 squared means 3 times 3, but the answer to that is 9, and so on. Now these all fall within the ones that we should remember mostly, apart from a couple here at the end, but let's see if you can figure them out. Again, pause the video, have a go, and I'll put the answers on in a second. Now, one thing we haven't discussed is what this sign means. Now, this means the square root, and sometimes you may see it with a little 2 there, but more commonly without. And that just means what number was squared, what number was times by itself to get this number under the square root. So good knowledge of your square numbers will help you do that. What number was times by itself to get 9? That number was 3. Okay? Don't do what some people do. That was meant to be a don't sign. Don't do what some people do and say that the square root, the square root of 9 is 3 squared. That's not true. 9 is 3 squared. The square root of 9 is 3. Just 3. Okay, so don't do that. Okay. This should all be fairly straightforward. And when you get to question 7, these little root signs mean the cube root. Okay, so sometimes that line will carry on across the top of the number. That's what it should do, but obviously some fonts have trouble doing that. Now this means what number was times by itself and then times by itself again to get 8. And again, just good knowledge of your cube numbers will help you do these. So we know that that number was 2. 2 times 2 times 2 gives us 8. So the cube root of 8 is just 2. Okay. Here are the answers to the other questions. Pause the video while you can copy down.